And we are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's webinar. My name is Felipe from the Instantly team. I'm very, very pleased to introduce you all to Martin Adey. Some of you maybe already know him. He's a dear partner of ours, successful agency owner. And yeah, he has previously been in some of our videos, I believe. He is done very well in some of those videos. Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, man. Thank you for having me. It's sweet to be here. I kind of see you guys as like the show to be on in our world right now. So it's a delight to be here.
No, I appreciate the kind words. So
That's true.
yes, yeah, no, I appreciate it. So we're actually delighted to have you here because obviously you have a lot of experience in 2023. Growing your agency. We've known you for a while, and obviously we have seen you succeeding. And I think like people could learn a lot of things from you, but also they could learn a lot of things that could be coming up during 2024. I think you are a very knowledgeable person to speak about those topics. So how about we start for those that haven't seen your past video with us, or who maybe don't know you? Like, how about we start with like a quick intro about yourself? Like maybe you can tell others like, about your agency, about your success story, maybe any failures that you had and you learned from.
Yeah, more failures than successes. I always use success in air quotes. It looks different from the outside than it feels on the inside. But we started this company during COVID. Kind of just fell into it. So we're almost through our third fiscal year. It's been great. I had two businesses previously that weren't kind of this retainer-based MRR sort of world. They were more, feast and famine, like the capital project space, doing construction and things like that. And it's just the agency, it can be such a beautiful business. It's really hard because it requires a high degree of consistency, which I think is naturally really hard for entrepreneurs, certainly hard for me, but they work. They're a beautiful business in that you can have these really long-term customer relationships. So that's been our focus. We've grown only by referral for the last 3 years. Last time we spoke, actually, it was almost exactly a year ago, and we were just about to launch our first outbound campaigns for ourselves, and then we decided not to. We sent 20 or 30 emails and then changed our mind. I went back to referral only. So I don't know if that'll hold up forever, but that's been our strategy, is just try to deliver customer surplus, grow and grow, slow and steady, up and to the right most months. And now we're actually a smaller team than we were a year ago, which has been pretty good, but our revenue per employee has gone up quite a bit, as is our revenue. We serve about 27 customers, at the moment. We've got a small team of 6, which is actually kind of like the right size. We've been able to optimize a bunch of processes and just made a new hire, which is pretty exciting. But focusing more on people and process and building a more resilient business. That's been kind of the last year's focus.
Yeah, I think that's a very important key takeaway because, like we see on the press often that the last 2 years have been years of, cutting budgets. Like maybe some of us have noticed, or maybe some of you like who are viewing this. By the way, we're going to answer all your questions live, so feel free to ask your questions. So maybe some people notice out there that some clients, they might be asking for discounts, as agency owners, or maybe they can like come with excuses like, hey, we cannot really afford your services. And I think you touch a very interesting subject there, where companies last year, they needed to like be more efficient with cash flows, with team size, and so on. So how do you actually come to the right team size? Like how do you structure those decisions? Like what do you think like someone should look into if they are making those decisions now? They should have made it last year as you did, but what do you think like will be those topics where people can be more efficient to scale the team?
It's funny. It's like everything else. The best time to do it was yesterday, but the second best time is right now. Well, I think what this actually kind of highlights one of the mistakes that I think we made in the first couple of years was we would find great people who we really wanted to work with and then try to build a role around them, as opposed to building the role that the organization needs and then putting a person who's great in the role. I think that once we got really specific about the needs of the org, what is the simplest org chart that could actually service all of those needs, and who's going to do what, and keeping it really simple, like boxes of an org chart with 5 bullets underneath as like, what are the 3 to 5 things that are absolutely critical inside of each role, and then like our org chart actually got simpler. We were able to do more with less people when we tried to be really clear about the role first and the person second, and then you can find excellent people, and they actually seem to really appreciate having a well-defined role. And I think the second piece, getting clear on our process in general. I think as we've had more money to spend, I guess, inside the org, we've been able to get better, just get, I guess, like really high caliber people. So what we think of as an SOP now isn't necessarily as detailed as it used to be. Of course, we still have, video tutorials, and we use Loom and, and checklists and whatnot. But instead of, teaching someone every button to click in the right order, we can instead describe the outcome that needs to be, achieved, and when and why and how, and having them understand it from a deeper, at a deeper level. And then I think that in turn also helps simplify the process, which makes everything clearer. And then what kind of dumps out the bottom is a simplified org chart.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when hiring people, actually, what do you? So let's. I mean, I think this could be like a good, good tip for either like an agency owner or a professional agency owner, but anyone who really has like a marketing team in general. But what do you look into when you're hiring people? Do you look for people who are very talented but not so experienced in lead generation or in cold emailing, or do you look for someone who has a lot of potential? Like what factor do you look into, like experience or talent?
Depends on the role.
Okay.
I think we now, like, as our processes have become better, and I think just as we've become more competent, as an organization, and like getting better at what we do for the customer, I think we've been more willing to take a risk on great people who are really smart and have broad experience elsewhere, but may not have a ton of cold email experience. And we can teach them that, because now we have the processes and the training documents and just like the general organizational competency, like putting someone really smart into a system that they can then figure it out themselves, to a higher degree. Of course, you're still training, but I think we are a little more willing to take risks on people without any experience whatsoever. But I do think it depends on the role. Like, if we have a developer, we do have one, we have one dev now. If we had, shout out to Colin, hey man. But if we were to hire, really specific skill sets like that, of course, we can't teach that because it's not our core competency. But if cold email, we believe that to be our core competency, we should be able to teach that. We should be able to teach that with pretty, high efficiency and also efficacy. So like, who better, right? We should be able to do it if we believe that, that we're good at it. We're trying to be world class at it.
Yeah, no, excellent. And which other key takeaway can you take from 2023? We're just starting the year, so maybe people, they might be a bit late to to jump in the wagon, but it's never too late, I guess. So yeah, what other takeaway could you like give to people out there? We touched the topic of being efficient, of processes, of the team, but what about cold email itself? Like, what do you think like change your cold emailing process? And like, in fact, like maybe we can even like dig deeper there with maybe some examples. Like maybe you have any campaigns that you launched for a client and that was like extremely like good, and yeah, maybe you can tell people about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was jotting lots of ideas about things that we saw that changed in 2023, things that we changed inside the organization, either strategically or also tactically in cold email. And I'll try and rattle a few off. I think overall, we did see reply rates generally fall, and lead rates generally fall. I don't think they fell as much as they did at the end of 2022, but they still, I think they did fall again. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it'd be a bad thing to not adjust your strategy when you notice that trend, right? Like the inbox is becoming noisier, our space is becoming more competitive. But to me, like that's not a bad thing. Like generally, when there's a whole bunch of new market entrants, it's because you're in a good market, right? And as long as you have, you know, a way to be highly differentiated, I think that's become more important as we've had way more market entrants come in. You know, like even I had a customer yesterday who's like, "Man, I'm getting a lot of emails from cold email people trying to, you know, who want to do cold email for them." And I think that so like this idea of niching, like without a doubt, I think that's more important than ever.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to be the best in a really narrow slice of the market, right? Because you might end up being the only one, or one of three, or one of five, and that's so much easier to dominate. And although it takes like courage and blind trust, and it's advice that we don't take. Like this, another thing that I think a mistake we always make is not having enough courage to niche down even further, even earlier, you know, even harder, because you don't know what's going to work, and you feel like you're leaving money on the table and like you're turning these things away. But at the end of the day, you can still take business that's outside of your perfect niche. But if all of your effort is to that one perfect niche, not only is it so much easier to win that business, and I think again more important in 2024 than ever, but the ones who you do want to take that aren't in your center of the bullseye, they get to be this beautiful special exception to the rule. So I actually think those ones end up being easier to sell as well, which is kind of ironic. But I think that's one big one. I think we saw a wild ride in the economy. I think generally, you know, maybe what any email agency with a bit of scale probably noticed, this incredible wave of job changes from September to mid-November. Yeah. Did you see that, Felipe?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
It was
and
nuts.
It's
nuts.
Funny.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's like correlated when people will start like complaining, like, oh, like I don't know, like these databases that I bought, like they were really bad, like the emails keep bouncing, and it's like, yeah, well, sometimes it's not the database, it's just like you mentioned, like there is just a massive change in the job market, and you know, like people started getting fired or switching jobs, so it's correlated in a way. So
yeah, I think that was wild. So being a little more responsive to market volatility generally, I think is going to serve us well in the next year. Like there's going to be all sorts of opportunities that pop up, like that one. Like that was really sudden, but it was so pronounced. And we were talking to our different customers about it, like say customers who are in staffing and recruiting, where it really affects their industry. And it was like, what is going on? It was like down was up all of a sudden, you know, and it lasted about a quarter or maybe a little more. So it might have started a little earlier than September. Yeah. But it was just wild. And I think we're going to see, like, none of us have a crystal ball to know what the economy is going to be like in 2024. But I think those of us who are ready to make faster changes and try to be responsive, and not abandoning our strategies that we know works, and not changing who we are, you know, on a whim, pivot, but more being ready to explore new opportunities just because you see something that you know, not necessarily you're like, you notice the trend, right? Oh, that seems really weird. Like what is going on there? You know, and there might be something there, and perhaps there's a great opportunity in there for you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And in fact, like I think like this is connected to, like, you know, before we started you know, this live, Martin and I we were speaking about you know, the 10 years of experience that you have doing cold email. You know, I also have 10 years of experience, so I guess you will agree with me on this one, that you know, every year we see like some massive change in the way you have to do cold email, and you just have to adapt. Like if you don't adapt, like you're out pretty much. So but it doesn't mean like cold email is dead as a channel. It just means I think it's just with anything in life, really. Like if you just don't adapt with your relationship, if you don't adapt in general as a person, if you don't grow, like yeah, if you don't find ways to just keep growing and keep adapting, like you're just gonna be out of the game. So I think it's just the nature of it. And I think that brings us to the next topic. Like I would like to connect this with 2024, which is like what's coming up. I think you you nailed it there with that one. Because Google launched, or they made these recent announcements about the changes, and everyone is panicking about it. But that's
This is
also
the
it's
end,
connected.
Felipe. This
Yeah.
is it. It's finally dead. Cold email. I know. We hear the same story every year for the last decade, but I promise you, this year it's actually over. February 2nd
Yeah.
will be the last email you ever send.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And yeah, and I've spoken with some people, and it doesn't matter how many metrics I show them, that like they will be fine, they just have to stick to the fundamentals. It's just like they're just so afraid, and it's just to the point where it's just not logical. Like I try
Well,
to
I think
explain.
it's not logical, man. Sorry to interject, but I actually I would love to talk with you about this,
Mhm.
because I've been thinking about this so much, and I think you got great eyes on all sorts of, you have your eyes on this whole world. So I'd actually be really curious your take on it.
Mhm.
But this one, like we see this every year. It's always the end of cold email, and Google makes a change. This one is so funny because it actually has almost nothing to do with B2B with us.
Yeah.
Like this is for Gmail users, protecting
Yeah.
consumers. And like, it's just, if anything, it'll only help us because maybe people will
Yeah.
get less spam from bad actors, right? Every time
It's a
that
great
happens, it's great.
it's a great thing. Cleaner
It's
inboxes, like
great.
it's a great, yeah.
And now they're saying like they're going to enforce the best practices that everyone, like even a solo freelancer is following these basic SPF, DKIM, DMARC. Like, of course you can't get an email delivered if you're not.
Yeah.
So these ones are basically inconsequential. But what I found so interesting is that I probably had emails or texts from a dozen friends, customers, colleagues, like very well-informed, intelligent people who are really worried about this. And
Yeah.
almost like they're bringing the news to me because someone who they really trust, who's also intelligent, well-informed, brought this news to them. And this actually made me aware of the misinformation landscape. Like I've always been so critical of this, like, oh, misinformation, disinformation, like, yeah, whatever. Just, we'll think for ourselves, it'll be fine. I don't really believe in that. But I think my opinion around this might have changed, because this is something that I actually do feel pretty confident about.
Yeah.
And very well-informed people seem like they're just totally wrong about it. And they're telling people like they've completely misinterpreted it. The mass seem to have believed it. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm curious what you think. Like, to me, this was like this is the closest to home example that I've experienced where, like, wow, misinformation is actually real. Like like people are running around believing this, and I've read it. I've read it's not true. It's just not true at all.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of exhausting at the same time to try to explain people, because it doesn't matter how many times you explain to people. It's just they just believe it so deeply that cold email is dead and everything, and you try to explain them in very logical ways. I'm like, look, I'm going to explain you step by step how these Gmail policies, Google policies will not affect you, and I cover every single one from the metrics, and I go to the official website. I'm like, look, this is the official website of Google, and here they said, for example, zero. Like, okay, let's say, and let's put ourselves in the scenario that you're actually emailing personal email accounts, right? Let's say that you decide to take that path, and you can still do it. It means you cannot do it. You have a 0.3% spam report rate as a limit. Well, Amazon SES, the largest, I think, if not the largest provider of email marketing, they have a 0.1%, and thousands of people use them as a provider, right? To send newsletters and marketing emails. We're talking about millions and millions of emails, and they have a 0.1% spam report rate, which is way, way more strict than what Google is implementing. And
I feel like that's been the best practice anyway. Like 1 in 1,000. Like we even know colloquially, like our goal is to be 1 in 1,000 or less.
Yeah.
Right. And we know that we can do that. We're going to be like, the campaign's going to be very resilient. The domain health is going to be great. We know that when we start to come up from that, we're going to start seeing more and more go to spam. We're going to start getting into trouble. Templates will start burning out. And so it just seems like it's a bunch of hubbub about nothing. Like we're all already doing this.
Yeah.
But Google's just made it public. So what do you think are going to be well, I got 2 questions for you.
Okay, go on.
What trends do you think that's going to influence for us those in our space and all of those listening who are really, doing cold email in a company or for themselves, or agency owners. So what trends is this Google hysteria that actually seems more pronounced than the average year?
Yep.
What trends is this going to kick off? And then also, who's responsible if we don't want such hysteria to prevail in the future? How do we change it?
Yeah. Well, regarding first question, I'm gonna stick to data. So we have noticed a trend towards companies, especially SDR teams and leaders, cutting down on the team size for SDRs. And obviously, that's also connected with AI. That's also connected with a lot of factors because sales teams become more efficient. It also is connected with how the economy is working. Companies are trying to be more efficient also with cash, and like those like massive sales teams with like dozens, if not hundreds of people, taking the phone like in Wolf of Wall Street. It's just not working anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, cold calling is not dead at all. It definitely works if you do it right. So companies in general starting to become more efficient, and I think this sort of like starts affecting those first, because the average SDR team, they usually, and I don't want to give names, but usually the large companies, they use some emailing providers. I'm not gonna give names again, but they basically tell their users that they should use their main domain to send
Of
cold
course.
emails, which is a huge mistake. It's a
It's
massive
crazy.
mistake, and I think that 2024 change in February by Google is going to change a lot the game for the SDRs. For you and for me, for the agency owners, for the instant users, it's going to mean nothing. It's going to change nothing really. But I think we're going to start seeing a massive shift from companies maybe contacting you and being like, hey, Martin, we stopped landing on the inbox. What are we doing wrong? And you're going to be like, well, I told you guys all the time, like, don't use your main domain for cold email. Warm up your email accounts. And then you're just going to like start going like, teaching them the fundamentals. I think just in general, like large organizations are gonna start moving more and more towards stuff that you and we have been like practicing for already like 2 years, if not more, which are like the 4 main pillars of cold email. That's how I call it: good technical setup, good copy, good offer, good database. You stick to those 4, and you can be like super cool for like the next years to come. Like nothing will happen to you. Like you stick to those 4, like like if it's your like it's your religion or your Bible or whatever it is, and you're gonna be fine. But those SDR teams, those large organizations, they just don't care. Like they just they use their main, like they make the first and biggest mistake. They use their main domain for cold email, and they send. I'm not joking, but I had calls with like a few of those teams that they want to start using instantly. And like I have to give it to them, like they're finally sticking to these best practices. But they will tell me like, oh yeah, we send 300 400 emails per email account or using our main domain, and I'm like, and then you get blocked. And and they're like, yeah, we get blocked, like we get a few accounts blocked every now and then, but it's fine, like we just purchase
so
new
wild.
ones. And I'm like,
okay, so can I summarize what I think?
Yeah.
So if I understand this correctly, you're seeing fewer SDRs per team at the enterprise level, which should create an opportunity for agency owners broadly, because there's clearly, because like you think they are, as deliverability becomes more difficult, they are going to struggle. You think that like the average user is going to struggle more and more who's not a professional agency.
Yeah,
and
100%.
So, okay, 2 things you said make me. Well, I was actually thinking like maybe our theme for 2024 might be back to basics. And then you were talking about like these basic 4 pillars. And I actually think that might be the case, because like I do think we're going to see broader adoption of AI in 2024, not necessarily for copy. Because I think one of the things I was expecting, almost all copy to be written by AI. Saying last year, it certainly is not. It is not good from what I've seen. But I do think the models will improve, LLMs will improve just generally, right? And I think we'll see broader application of these things, whether it's research, integration, and automation. It's quite powerful there. I think we'll see more. It's like we can use it for internal tooling. it's kind of like Zapier on steroids, because you can get to integrate things that you maybe weren't able to integrate before. I think that's cool. But I think this back to the basics approach, it's never been more important to seem like a human, because we're skeptical right now. I think there's also a broader skepticism of technology in general. Maybe it's been put off by, like, started by AI, but it's like I'm actually thinking of getting rid of my smartphone right now. I'm seriously thinking about, like, I think I might, like, within the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks. I've been testing not using it.
Yeah.
Driving around without maps and answering texts once a day from my computer or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to think that technology's taken more than it's giving, and I think that comes to this back to the basics thing as it applies to cold email.
Well, well, I think like I think that's a really good topic. Like I like reading a lot, and one of my favorite books is Hook by Neil Ayal. It's a fantastic book, and this guy, he basically goes through the psychology of building products that get you hooked, and that's the the why in the name of the book, and basically he talks a lot about how to make products that are just a necessity for you. And like when you dig deeper into this subject, you will realize that as a cold emailer, you're not just you're not competing against other people sending cold emails. You're actually competing against like Netflix itself, because and Netflix will tell you this. They will say openly, we are competing against anyone else, including smartphones, who is taking the attention span of our users. And when we see a dip in reply rates as time goes by, it's not just because more people are sending cold emails. Like people have this perception, and yeah, I mean, obviously, cold emails tend to increase, but it's not just that. It's just that now companies and marketers in general are fighting more and more with large organizations like Facebook, like Meta, like Netflix. All these guys, they're all fighting for who has more minutes or hours per day of users than others, and then they can monetize that. So that's basically what we are like seeing as a trend. And as a cold emailer, I think you kind of like summarize it well. How do I get more attention from people? Well, if you niche down, if you target the right person at the right time with the right offer, you are more likely to get their attention. So it's a battle that is, again, once again, it's not against other cold emailers. It's just against like larger, like bigger people out there. And you will see it in the literature from these people. Like Netflix, they have hundreds of engineers that they read these kind of books and they apply these kind of methodologies to get you hooked to their products.
Of
So
course.
yeah, it's a very interesting topic. It's just very large. So I
Well,
think getting rid of
Felipe,
your
I think
smartphone is,
this.
yeah, it's not a bad
Sorry,
idea to get rid
I
of
think
your
this goes like right back to what we were talking about before. It's like, how do we explain why this year the hysteria around Gmail's changes might have been so much more pronounced than the average year that we've seen?
yeah,
I think it's because of that.
yeah,
Because there's just so many people on the internet trying to get people's attention, and hysteria sells. So all of these people, some well-intentioned, some not, are intentionally misleading people about things they're
oh yeah,
actually not experts in. And I think we just finally saw it really slip into our domain, as our domain, it's still relatively niche and not mainstream, but it's certainly become more mainstream in the last, cold people didn't know what cold email was even 5 years ago. Right. And now it seems like more and more people do. But I think it actually is this fight for attention
yeah,
that, everyone with a microphone now has an opinion to share, and they may not actually be informed whatsoever. So I think like the responsibility then falls on us as the information consumer, and certainly as the people sharing information. Just try to be a little more responsible about being willing to say, I don't know. Yeah, we don't know. We don't, like, there's so much we don't know.
yeah,
And then also being, I guess, as the consumer, being willing or insisting that we think for ourselves here and there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, like, just read the source document, read the first 100 words on Google's, like, people even give you the link. Like, just read the first 100 words, and that'll be so much better than the 2-minute video you watched or the reel or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think yourself as an agency owner, like that's it, it obviously becomes a bit more difficult because it sort of like makes your job a little bit harder, because then you don't only have to run campaigns, but then you have to convince people on what changes to make, and then people are like, oh, but I heard this somewhere else. So I think like our job right now, and currently, and also for you, for anyone out there who is an agency owner, is to like sort of like build confidence on your clients and tell them like, look, we're gonna work together, but you need to trust me with this stuff because I've done my research. I know what I'm talking about. I've spoken to like people like Martin Adey. So, I've seen his videos, so anyone out there who is an agency owner, you need to start like, speaking up a little bit because you might see like clients who will be very doubtful for the next months. But at the end of the day, I think going back to what we were initially discussing, these changes will just benefit us because the inboxes are going to be cleaner. It's going to be harder for those who don't stick to the fundamentals to land on the inbox. So those of us who warm up our email accounts, stick to the fundamentals, we're going to start landing on the inbox and we're going to get great results. And agencies like yours, Martin, are just going to grow even further in 2024. So it's just going to be a fantastic year for those who stick to those.
Yeah. And then
How about,
I think you probably want to get tactical here, right?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
awesome. I got one to wrap that up, and then I think we got a bunch of questions and stuff. I'd love
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
I could see them right now. I would like to answer them, but I think so. Like we try to operate under two assumptions that I think will serve everybody well in 2024. We assume that deliverability is always going to get harder, and we also assume that the inbox is always going to be more crowded. They're kind of antithetical to each other, right? So of course, but if we just find if we operate on those two assumptions directionally, it forces us to try to become better at everything. And I think if the people listening to this assume that deliverability is gonna get harder, it's gonna get harder to get your email placed, and the inbox is also going to be more crowded, like you're going to be more likely to respect the technical setup that's necessary or follow best practices, and then also just send emails that people want to read.
Yeah, correct. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So how about we start with some of these questions? So here is a question from a Facebook member from a group. It's a bit of a broad question, but like, do you recommend custom Loom videos on follow-up emails? Is there a tool that can mass make those videos? Like, do you actually use Loom videos for follow-up emails?
No,
I
we
think,
don't.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think video has its place. I think it can be great after someone has followed up or they've gone dark or something like that. Like more once they've expressed interest and they are a lead.
Yeah.
But we really don't use video. We actually we keep it as simple as possible, like as plain text, no formatting, ideally no formatting whatsoever, as few words as possible, short words, concise, and try not to do the fancy stuff. Although I do, like, at the end of the day, you got to test it because some people have phenomenal results with it.
Yeah.
So, but it's not what we do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. I mean, we know some cool people out there, like they specialize in this stuff, like the SensePark guys. We did a webinar with them, like they're doing some great stuff, like they mix AI with like videos, so they actually specialize on sales videos. So they're more like a niche Loom, so to say. But
Cool.
I think you summarize it very well. I think for call, email, I think for the main emails and the follow-ups, it would be best just to keep it simple. At the end of the day, the more links you include, like the more likely to land on the spam folder you are. So I guess like when people reply back, I think that's the best approach. That's what we follow at Instantly as well, because we also send campaigns to grow instantly. We like to practice what we preach. So and it works very well for us.
Yeah, and it may depend on who you're sending to. If you think those people love video, like as a specific niche, right? If that segment loves video and you know that about them, then I don't know. I don't see how that could fail. But if you don't believe that to be true and you're just going to apply it like as a blanket, it may not be worth the work.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a good call to action for a lot of sectors. Like, when you put in a call to action and you tell people, "Can I send you a video explaining whatever, like how we can solve this?" I think that would be a great call to action in a lot of industries. In SEO, a lot of people are doing it. Like, "Can I send you a video how I can improve your website?" I don't think it's working so well anymore, but in other industries, I think it's working very well. So yeah. That's a great stuff. So Chris Gravelis is asking, my accounts have finished warming up and I'm about to start sending emails for the first time. And then his question is, do I need to keep warming up the emails list I'm sending my actual emails? Well, this is a very, it's a question for someone who's just starting out, but I think it's great to answer it. What do you think about that, Martin?
I think it's a really great question. It's super timely. I'm looking at my notes over here. because I was actually thinking like, what are my big questions for 2024? And one of them is, what role will warming play in the future? I think our best practice is right now and has always been to warm up forever,
Yeah.
right? And there's certain ratios, you may want to go down to even 20 a day on warming, something like that, just to make sure you're getting a decent amount of replies.
Yeah.
But I'm
What?
starting to wonder
Mhm.
if warming will have a place later on. And I don't know what you're seeing, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. But I'm starting to wonder if warming may only have a role in warm up in the future.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll test something there. And if somebody else
Yeah.
is testing something there, reach out to me, and I'd love to know.
Yeah, no, of course. Look, I think, for example, from our perspective, we have actually adapted as well on the warm up space, because that's our bread and butter. And, for those who don't know, I was actually an instantly client, at the very beginning. So I knew instantly on the early days, I was a client, I had my own agency. And then, I knew the guys when they started with instantly, and I love what they were building. And at the end of the day, I ended up joining the team. So that meant that I used instantly at the very beginning as a user, right? And the warm up feature has improved so much over time. Like at the very beginning, I remember it was like a super weird AI generated text. It worked though. It worked. It worked pretty well. But right now it's just so much better than what you will find out there, because the messaging and like the AI generated like conversations look so natural. um so we're definitely improving as time goes by, like a lot. And I think your concern, if it's a concern regarding like what's the future for warm up, it's very valid, and we're well aware of it. And we just keep improving it, because we know that
Yeah.
if we just keep the warm up as it is, it's gonna get flagged. And we're like, I also recently, for example, we launched like custom warm up tags, meaning that
Yeah.
you can use your own words for the custom, and so on. So anything that you feel like could help improve the warm up pool or the warm up feature, we take it very seriously, and we
Oh,
try
for
to
sure.
implement it.
Yeah, and to be clear, we still use, we're still using it. We're still warming up all of our, whatever, hundreds of inboxes. But I'm just starting to get curious about, because like it's another cat and mouse game as well,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a constant cat and mouse game, and we're always trying to take our bet. Like, are we pushing our chips in on Google or on us, who are able to beat
Yeah.
Google in this specific frame of time? So
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, and just one more thing to add before we answer the question. We actually have spoken with Google representatives, and not just us, but other agency partners. They have connections with Google, and they openly say that their intention is not really to kill cold email. If they will really want to, they could do it. They could
So what did they
definitely do it.
tell you their intention is?
Well, their intention is to regulate emailing, but they are well aware that emailing is one of the main communication channels for sales teams out there. Like
Of course.
they themselves have a sales team, like, and they were like, how do you expect us to sell without being able to email to people? Like you need to have the capability of sending a message to someone that has never heard of you and that doesn't know you, in
The
order
world
to
would
generate
stop.
a conversation. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like and it's from like something that could be a face to face, like an like a cold email conversation. Well, in that case, it wouldn't be that cold, but it's in a way cold as well. But let's say you meet someone in a conference, right, and you close the sale, and then the person gives you their business card, and they're like, okay, send me the contract or whatever, like send me the proposal to this email in my business card. You're gonna have to send them an email. So it's just, you cannot escape from it. Like you have to use email as a way of communication, and they're well aware of it. And they this announcement for 2024 again is just to keep the internet cleaner from the scams and the phishing emails. At instantly, we also we do not approve spamming people and using emailing for spamming people generally. We don't approve that, and in fact we are sort of strict with our warm up pool and the sending capabilities with those users that abuse of it. So yeah, it's just gonna get better and better for agency owners in general. That's my takeaway. And one last thing I wanted to ask you about the warm up stuff. How many emails do you actually send yourself, and how many of those are warm up emails? What's your ratio in your
Yeah, that's a
agency?
good question. Um, well, we're always playing with volume for sure.
Okay.
But I think as a trend in 2023, we increased the number of domains per customer
Mhm.
and reduced the number of emails per box
Okay.
broadly. So, I think the safest thing is like 30 a day outbound and 20 a day warm up.
Oh yeah,
And I think if
100%.
people like, yeah, I just think you can do that all day, and then all you got to focus on is engagement, and you will never come into deliverability problems if you're getting 2 to 3% reply rate on emails
Yeah,
sent.
yeah,
Chris,
hundred
thank you
percent.
for the question, man. That's a great question. It prompted a nice conversation. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. So someone else asked, "Will we get a recording?" Well, actually, we're live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and many other places, LinkedIn as well. And yes, this is going to be live for you to watch it again later. So thank you again for the question. Next question. Let me look here because we have a couple. Um, 1 second. All right. So here we go. So this is a bit like of a niche question.
Cool.
But yeah, so basically Caleb is asking, we help brands with existing products create animated 2D and 3D animations. Think of an iPhone commercial where the product explodes, right?
Hmm.
So, and they also said
Great.
their plan is to be on a retainer with these brands and pump out a certain amount of content per month, right? Then they're asking who is the right company that it should be targeting. So this is a
Who
bit
in the
more of
company?
yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you actually we could maybe answer this more broadly and not just for Caleb, but I'll try to help everyone. How do you actually
Yeah.
niche down? How do you find a niche when a client comes and they come with an offer and they tell you who do I target? Like, what's your process for finding the right niche?
Well, I mean, ideally, the people we serve, we want them to already have product market fit. They already know who they want to serve. So they just want to do more of what they already know works, ideally. So the less market research we have to do via cold email, the better. But I think the answering Caleb's question, when we don't know exactly who we want to target from a job titles perspective, my favorite strategy is to run 2 sequences. One to assuming it's a company under 100 employees or something, so you can actually email the founder. Say if it's under 100, you can go to the founder pretty, or the whatever the L1 title, founder, CEO,
Yeah.
president, owner, whatever, co-founder. But then also just break out we call it like a wide titles, so like the wide title sequence. So anyone else, like, okay, let's throw the marketing managers and up, product managers and up, whatever, whoever you think might be interesting. Ops, maybe it's an ops thing. Maybe
Yeah.
there's like sometimes even the office manager has incredible clout in some industries. So we run the founder one. And if you really don't know, your CTA can be, do you think anybody on your team would want to learn about this?
Oh yeah.
Phenomenal CTA for wayfinding. You'll get a high reply rate. And if you're not too salesy, your unsubs will be reasonable, because you're not going to come across like a taker. And then in the wide titles one, you can, in that sequence, you can almost do the same CTA, just flip it on its head and just say, not sure if this is your thing, if I found the wrong person, is there anybody on your team, anybody on your team who might be interested in seeing this or who might want to learn more? And like, people do want to help. So at the end of the day, I think the nature of humans is good. We certainly have bad behavior from time to time, sometimes for long periods of time, but people do want to help you. And if you come across like a human and you make a simple ask of a simple favor from one human to another, and they can see that it's sincere, they'll tell you who to target.
Yeah. I think that was a great answer. And we have heard people like Steve Jobs even say that. Like, people are actually willing to help you if you ask for help. But obviously, if you come like, on the very first email trying to sell something to someone, people are gonna be like, back off. But if you are actually asking for feedback, like on an email, or asking for the right person to talk to, or asking for help, obviously in a way that they can actually help you with very low friction. I think that's also a very important thing to consider. Like, a lot of people think like, I'm gonna put my Calendly link on the first email, and people are gonna jump on a call. And that in reality that almost never happens. Like almost no one
No,
books. Like time is so
never.
limited. Like we, for example, we booked this time with you for like weeks ahead because we know you're a very busy person, and everyone is very busy. So
All
it's
right.
just that's how it is. So yeah, I think that was
Yeah. How
that
do you
was
make it easy for them to say yes? Like, how do you make it easy for them to do the thing that you want them to do? And I think like that's such a good. Oh, it's a good framework to be respectful of people's time, and then also to end up hopefully furthering your noble goal,
yeah.
not your dark goal.
Yeah, I agree. So the next question is: I have a 2 to 3% reply rate. Is it good? I'm using one sentence call emails. So kudos
Okay,
for
two
that.
questions on
Yeah.
that. Um, is it on email sent or on people contacted? Like, so if it's one step, if you're getting 2 to 3 on email sent, so like you send 1,000 emails, and you get 2 to 3% reply rate on that, I think that's great. If it was on 2 to 3% of prospects in a 5-step sequence, probably not so good. Like our North Star is still double digits, right? So if we have a 4-step sequence, we want 10% of the people to reply.
Oh,
The second question there is, I think, more important than your reply rate. Like reply rate is so critical for deliverability, because if you're consistently getting 2 to 3% reply rate on email sent, you can continue testing forever to find out which CTA or which offer, what have you, is going to get leads. But if you're getting 2 to 3% reply rate and they're all telling you to, go F yourself, then you're not really achieving the goal. So I would say it's not good.
yeah.
But that is kind of our benchmark.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah. And by the way, like a 10% North Star, like that's fantastic. Like, and it's kind of funny because often I meet people that they tell me like, no, cold email doesn't work, and I'm like, well, there's some users actually get like a double-digit reply rate, and I'm like, name
Yeah.
me some. So I'm glad I have someone in front in a video. I mean,
Well, because think about it, all it means is like if you're doing a 4-step sequence and you get 2.5% on each step, of course there's a little bit of attrition between each, but that's
yeah,
that gets you to 10. And I think we
yeah,
don't always hit it, but that's our North Star, right? That's what we want. Like that's the level of engagement that we're
yeah,
hoping for. Because if a step's not converting people, the step shouldn't be there, or it needs to be optimized,
yeah,
right? And if we're not getting any replies, we're just going to burn out that infrastructure. So
yeah,
we should reel back the volume, figure out, do some more testing, sweat, and pull out more hair, and then
yeah, yeah,
turn the volume back up.
yeah. No, that's fantastic. All right. So next question by Georgie. Hey there, Georgie. Who do you think? I mean, actually, sorry. Do you think that more agencies will move forward? Will move towards using Microsoft accounts for outreach as an alternative? So yeah, what do you guys actually use for
Yeah,
calling a support? Do you use Google?
that's
Do you use
cool.
Microsoft?
Yeah, Caleb, thanks for the last question, and Georgi, thanks for this one. We are all Google right now. One of our focuses through 2023 was to become more agnostic towards tools and providers generally, right? So if Instantly ever gets bought for 1.5 billion and turned into an internal tool, then we could quickly switch to another tool. Or if Apollo disappears, or if Google bans cold email finally on February, then we could switch. So like we are generally trying to be more agnostic toward
Yeah.
which tools we use at every level of our tech stack. So I actually do think more agencies will move towards Microsoft. But again, they all have their evils, and they all kind of, like, everyone kind of follows in step. Like you mentioned Amazon SES. I don't think there's any real hack here. I think our experience has just been follow the same best practices that you do everywhere. Like try to send emails people want to read, send reasonable volumes, set them up properly, warm them up, make sure authentication is really tight, test. And I think whatever ESP you're using, if you do all of those things, you're probably gonna have similar results, with the exception of, I know Jesse Olette had mentioned before sending Microsoft to Microsoft and Google to Google, like looking at the SMTP of the recipient box. I haven't tested that. I think that's really interesting. I think that's a very interesting idea. So,
Yeah.
Geordie, in short, yes, I do think more people will start using Microsoft, and I think we might need to use both.
Which, by the way, it's a feature we built on Instantly. you can actually enable it when
Actually,
you yeah, when you go. A lot of
yeah,
people don't
rad.
notice stuff because
Wild.
we've been launching so many small features that people are
Yeah.
like, it's like now they're starting to see too many options and buttons. And yet we try to keep it very simple. But yeah, if you go to options when you're about to launch a campaign and scroll down on the advanced features, you have the provider matching feature, and that we just do all of that for you. Like you just sit and relax, and we actually strongly recommend people like
But do
you
you
like you.
notice? Do you
Hmm?
notice the stats on that? Do you see it?
Yeah,
Do you see a lift on deliverability?
we do. It's not like double or triple,
How
but
pronounced is it?
we see like a 20% increase in
Actually, so it's
metrics,
meaningful.
10%, but
Yeah.
there is an increase. There is an
But
increase for
still,
sure.
if you generated 10 to 20% more leads for every single customer, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
doing cost per lead, that's a 10 to 20% lift in your business by clicking a
Yeah.
button. So that sounds pretty compelling.
Yeah. I mean, so how it works is like this. So, um, when you look at the overall statistics, and Jesse, I think he summarized it very well when he talked about this. Um, most of the large organizations, they use Outlook, but then at the same time, the medium-sized ones use Gmail. So it sort of like depends who you're targeting, right? But if you have like a mix of like it depends who you're targeting, but like I think like good split will be like 75 per, like let's say you have a campaign with like 100 email accounts, right? Like you have like a pool with 100 email accounts being warmed up, like ready to like launch or target someone. Out of those 100 email accounts, 75 could be like Google accounts, and then 25 can be Outlook. And then you'll be pretty much covering like all the possibilities there. You enable the provider matching feature, and then we will do all the heavy lifting for you. Like you don't have to worry about anything else. We'll basically like check who in your database who is using what, and then we will like match every provider. And yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
then
got
that
one
way
question. I want to send you a follow-up question then. When
yeah.
you're doing that, do you see any difference in the stats from sending the same copy from multiple ESPs or multiple IPs? Like say you've got the exact same copy, you're sending it from this Microsoft box, you're sending it from this Google box, but it's the same. Do you see any difference in like the performance of that copy, or does it burn out faster?
Yeah. So there are differences, and in fact you can do this test yourself. Like if you send exactly the same message to when you're testing different campaigns, right, and you're testing the deliverability, and you send exactly the same text, it's the same message to Outlook accounts and then to Google accounts, you will sometimes land in the spam folder with Outlook, and with Google you'll be absolutely fine. So
Yeah.
obviously the logic behind you know for 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 filtering for spam for each one of the providers is different. So yeah.
Can I clarify my question?
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, like because it's obvious you're sending a bulk message
Yeah.
if multiple IPs are producing that message and it's now going out to the internet. So do you notice any change in like does that copy become less resilient, or is it kind of siloed because Microsoft is not sharing that with Google and Google's not sharing that with Microsoft? So it's the same,
Yeah.
or do you know?
I think that's also not a good question. Um, yeah, I think I don't know. I
Good
think
answer.
it's fair to say I don't know, because I really don't know if they're exchanging information or not, like between Microsoft and Google. That's and probably like no one but themselves know. Maybe they are exchanging info. Maybe we don't know. But one preventing measure we can definitely follow is spin tags, and that's such an underrated
Totally.
move.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. Like a lot of people, they don't use spin tags,
Crazy.
and it makes such a big difference. Like such a big difference, and it's so simple. Like I remember before I had to do the spin tags myself manually, and it was so time consuming. It was like crazy time consuming because then for those who don't know what spin tags is basically saying the same, like basically the same message but in different ways. So how do you make it happen? You just go to ChatGPT. So first you actually write your copy, write your email like, hi, hi Martin, I'm selling this product, blah 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 blah, entire pitch, call to action, regards, and that's it. So you take that entire message, you put it in ChatGPT, and literally you tell ChatGPT, create a spin text for this message, right? And then ChatGPT will just craft you different variants of the same message, and basically it will change. For example, rather than saying hi Martin, it will say hello Martin, good day Martin, dear Martin, and so on for each one of the words in the email. So when you combine all the different variations for each one of the words that ChatGPT created for you, you will have hundreds, if not thousands, of different variants for each email. So it just becomes harder and harder to spot it. Now, some people could say, oh, but I don't think Google and Outlook is so dumb like not to spot with AI. That you actually use AI, but actually it works. So I guess they just don't care. I don't know, but it just works. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
So
question.
yeah, great question. So let's see here from Benand. What is the best length for a cold email? Is there an ideal email length that makes more people read it completely and a good reply rate? And give a good reply rate.
Our best practice is generally shorter is better, but there are exceptions to the rule. If we can say the same thing with less words, we'll always slant that way. Being like clarity and brevity usually win. But I think knowing your audience, like if you're writing to HR people or leadership and talent development people, like people who are quite verbose and that's how they're used to communicating, or if you were, to administrators in government or schools, right, where they're used to really explaining their position with a lot of words when they email each other, then we would go longer. So I think the best practice is that we employ anyway is to like generally we think fewer words is better, but matching the message length of your recipients' general conduct with each other, that wins.
Yeah.
Great question.
Said.
Thanks for that.
Perfectly said. Nicolas is asking, I've read that we need to add an unsubscribe link as well in our emails. Would it remove the personal approach if we add it? So what are your thoughts on adding unsubscribe links?
That's a great question, Nicholas. For the longest time, I resisted adding unsubscribe links for this exact reason. But now I think the cat's out of the bag and people know that these are cold emails. And I think we're not really fooling that many people. They know it's automated. But if you're sending an email about a specific problem for a specific person with a specific solution, and they actually have that problem, they're not going to care if it's automated or not. We see more replies now. We're like, oh, I never reply to these, but this one, that's like our favorite. I don't know. It's one of my favorite things to read. Like I never reply to these, but this one seems so good. And I'm like, that's amazing, right? Like we just love that. It's a feather in our cap. So yeah, I do think it removes the personal approach, but now our best practice, and this changed this year. But now our best practice is we just use it because I think the risk to deliverability, if we can only get 1, maybe 3 spam reports in every 1,000 emails, if you're not using the unsub link, you'll see pretty incredible performance for a month, if that. And then the probability that we would burn out that infrastructure or that copy or both was really high. So I think now the scales have tipped and we use unsub links everywhere. What do you think, Felipe? You guys same idea?
Yeah, I mean,
or do you still go back and forth a bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, definitely add an option to unsubscribe. Like I also have other ways to do it because this question I think is also related to the new regulations. Also, they can spam act. They openly say, especially if you're targeting the US, they openly say that you need to add the option for users to unsubscribe. So I think you can also mix it up a little bit, and you could either try with. I completely agree with what you said. You could also try apart from the link. If you give the option to the people to to unsubscribe by replying back with like a keyword, like for example reply 0 if you want to unsubscribe, and that way it's a win-win for you because if they actually reply reply unsubscribe, then your reply rates are going to go up, so that you're actually warming up your email account. So you have different ways of doing it. So
we've tested that as well. We've gone away from it a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's a bit as we've gotten more mature as a business. We just want to we probably, we're a little more risk averse around the gray areas of legislation, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we obviously advise users to be compliant and stuff. So I think you nail it pretty well. Like people, they know when a cold email is a cold email. So like, yeah, you don't need to try too hard to hide it. So yeah. By the way, do you have another meeting after this? I'm
No,
just
man, I'm
okay.
okay. I actually
Okay, great.
pushed my meeting back because I thought we might get into it and want to go
Yeah,
over. So we're good.
yeah, because
I'm
we
all
have a
ears,
few
man.
questions. So I'm
Yeah,
wondering
I
if
would
we
love to
should.
answer them. These are great questions.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So all
it's
right.
so cool to like find a community of people who love cold email. This thing that I'm so this thing that I nerd out on, and you're getting all these questions that are like technical. I love it.
Yeah, I also love this stuff. My wife doesn't like it so much though. Like I'm like
Yeah,
talking all the time about Colin, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't care."
yeah.
All right. Next question. So from a YouTube user, new at this, where do you find scripts for cold email? So what do you advise to someone who's just like looking for cold email scripts?
Well, I would say don't think about it like a script, because it's not that complicated. It's such a narrow part of writing and copywriting in general. Like copywriting is this massive skill set that'd be really hard to learn all of it.
Yeah.
But cold email copywriting is actually pretty narrow, and I think people can get pretty good at it pretty quick. But you'd want to go to the first principles and think about like what are the components of a great cold email. There aren't that many of them, right? You've got a salutation, some sort of personalization element. You've got a statement of a problem, an offer of a solution, and a call to action, and then maybe a signature. I would just check out like those 6 things have been said a million different ways by people who are a lot more experienced and better at this than me. And if you check out, Instantly's blog, Alex Berman, like one of the OGs. Alex Berman has a lot of stuff on this. You even like Steli FD from Close.io if you want to go way back in the archives. But I would go look at, and also like kind of tilting towards old videos, because I think one of the strange things about copywriting, and particularly like direct response copywriting like we do, old stuff that endures is pretty good. Like there's a lot of bad content out there now, of people who, I don't know, whatever, just are fighting for your attention and may not actually have the experience. Like I don't have a blog or anything, because I don't even feel like I'm in a position to write really good content about this, but I think that there's great content that's been out there for 5 or 10 years, and even those rules will still apply because they're just rules of human nature. So I would check out some of the old guys, check out some of the greats, check out Instantly's blog, and then just learn to write your own, and don't think about it like a script, because they change, they burn out really fast. You got to constantly change them. You should be testing at least 2 at a time in any case. So whenever somebody asks for a script, I kind of try to just turn that question on its head, and like, well, instead of thinking about that, just think about, find a framework, and then just go write a bunch of copy.
Yeah, love it. Perfectly said. So another question from a YouTube viewer regarding reply rates. When you calculate reply rates, are you only looking at positive replies or total replies, including negative replies like not interested? So yeah,
I'll tell you what we do. I don't know what everybody else does. We unmark all the replies that are autoresponder or unsubs. If someone replies unsubs, so that all of our replies, we just categorize them as human replies. So if someone took the time to say no, not interested, or yes, interested, or anything in between, we count those all as the reply rate. And then our interested reply rate, or a positive reply rate, we call it interested. And that is just a subset of that. But we calculate that ratio also based on total emails delivered, not as a percentage. Like some people are like, oh, reply rate's 2 to 3%, and then we want to get 30% of our replies being positive. I think that really works. Also, it's just not the way we do it. We just like all of our metrics are just as a number of emails sent or delivered, and then it's just simpler.
Yeah, love it. So next question, how much difference do you notice when testing text only versus HTML emails? Is it worth doing text only and not getting the other stats? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think I have to defer to you on this one, because right now we're not using text only. Like we keep everything really simple and only use text, but they are being sent as HTML. Years ago, like when I first started doing this, both with Close.io and Mailshake, it was always plain text always won, and it was so much better. So like we're not able to do it right now for technical reasons. My inclination is that we probably would if we could. So I'll defer to you. What do you see out there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I will say that, and I'm gonna take like a few takeaways from other experts and mix it with our experience. Okay, so I've done like previously actually I did another live before with Ken Bulk, who is another successful agency owner, and he mentioned that he actually includes images and links on his signatures, and he's very proud of it because he says like I get great results doing that, and it works for him. And the average user will tell you like, don't include images, don't include links, with which we also promote. We also tell people don't include images, don't include links. But the way he does it, in a way, sort of makes the email look more real. It makes it look more personal. He puts a photo of himself, the company
Mm.
logo. He puts his not just, and he doesn't just put the website. Like he puts his phone number, the address, his company address, everything, all of that
Yeah.
stuff in there. So just the email looks like, it just looks legit. And I think it will depend. If you are doing HTML and you are doing it with that purpose, you could be getting even better results than text only. But if you're doing HTML, and we have seen it, okay, and you're adding like bunch of weird images that are gonna be screaming like I'm a mass email, and it's probably not gonna work so well, because the reality of it is that servers by default they will have a preference for text only emails for safety reasons. The
So
whole
what if you're
algorithm.
sending text only, but it's being sent as HTML, but it's 80 words of text with no formatting whatsoever, versus the same 80 words being sent text only, not HTML? Do you think that does the text only win in that scenario?
I think it will win, but there will be a slight difference in a way.
Okay.
It will be very slim,
It
I
may
think.
not be pronounced.
No, I don't think it will be so pronounced. I think that's
Okay.
why you probably, if you do the test, you're not gonna encounter that big of a difference, because at the end of the day, this is the thing. Like, when those servers they analyze emails, they're just looking at suspicious stuff that basically they're looking for any safety red flags, like anyone sending a virus, anyone sending something to scam other people or phishing emails, they're looking for that kind of stuff. So if your email is literally just like you say 80 words, you barely have any links, if not maybe no
Yeah,
links, and it's
zero.
still
Yeah.
HTML, like when these automations they analyze your email, they'll be like, yeah, this is fine, like we don't
Same,
see
same.
anything weird. So yeah,
Cool. Thanks
I
for the
think
question, man.
yeah, great question. So I I think okay. So this last question, just because is related to 2024 and the Google updates. Do we have to include out an opt out link? The new updates are enforcing this,
Yep.
but at the same time, it makes it look spammy. I think, yeah, I think we can answer this again just to reinforce the whole idea of that people will not be affected by this update. Like, but yeah, what are you gonna do when it comes to that? Like, because the new update they do mention an opt-out link. Alpha is just for personal email campaigns, like if you're sending
Yep.
B2B you don't have to do anything. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we've noticed the trend in the last couple of years that you do seem to be penalized harder and harder for being reported spam,
Yeah.
both burning out your copy and then damaging your domain or inbox reputation. So we seem to have a higher incentive now to not be marked spam. And I think one of the good ways to do that is to just make it really easy for people who don't, some people don't want your email. Some people are just misers and you'll never please them anyway. And I think if you only need 1 to 3 and 1,000 of those for you to blow up your inbox or campaign. So, we've just made the switch and just started using it. I still don't like it because yeah, it doesn't look like the way I'm used to it, where like, we can come off like a human. But I also now I'm just starting to think that it's better to just be sincere and not try to be misleading
Yeah.
about like, yeah, it's an automated email. They know that, we know that,
Yeah.
but try to make the value compelling And the targeting, it all comes down to the target, right? Try to make you've done so much work on the audience that you really believe there's a high proportion of people in there that actually care about this thing. And I think if you do that, then you can be a little more genuine, and you don't have to worry about looking spammy, because we all know what it is, and it's just fine, and it still works. It still works. It doesn't work like it used to, where we used to get 5% interested replies, on campaigns, but it still works. It still works well enough, and it's resilient. It can work forever. It seems to be working forever.
Yeah, love it.
Thanks for the question.
I think that was the last question. So yeah, Martin, I think
there was a couple. I noticed you skipped a couple questions just because they're probably not the right format for this. So feel free to just send me an email. Felipe will share it after, and I'm always happy to talk to other agency owners or people who just love cold email. So just cold email me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have one-on-one.
Yeah. I can share your email now if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can email Martin at martin.adey@lidosaurus.com. We're gonna anyways put your website.
You can drop it in the show notes. I'll find it.
On the video description. But yeah, check out lidosaurus.com. They definitely know what they're doing when it comes to cold emailing. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up. For 2024, so I guess we covered the new Google updates. Anything else that you think is worth looking into in the future in general?
Okay, one more thing that's kind of interesting. I think we might end up using more SMTP, meaning like high volume potentially. We've been experimenting with this for a couple of years. That's a trend that kind of went away for a long time. And in the spirit of being more agnostic to different ways to make sure you can still operate, I think we might see more use of services like that, whether it's Amazon SES or SendGrid, Postmark, what have you. There's a whole new set of compliance to learn, and you got to get your own IPs, and you got to warm them and manage them, and it's a very long, cumbersome process. But then they're yours. So like Google can't take my IPs away from me. So who knows? I think we might see a little more of that. I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think this year we're going to see more copy being written by AI, like actually written?
Yes and no. So I definitely don't see entire emails written by AI anytime soon. I mean, at least not this year. But what I do see, and I see it from by some pros out there. One of them is Eric Novolowski. A lot of people know him. He's a very cool guy.
He's very generous. He's very generous.
Yeah, he's very generous. He's always like giving database or giving stuff away. So cheers to Eric. I think if you follow him, you will see that he often talks about how to make sure that an email resonates with people on the first two lines by automating the account research and by truly making the emails look like they are meant to be written by that person. I mean, read by that person. So, like some of his emails, they just look incredible, and they like when the people reply back, they often he even shows like some screenshots. They're like, oh, I get so many like cold emails, but finally like it's so refreshing to finally see an email with suggestions. So for example, some of the things that people like him like stuff like he does is basically he uses AI. He takes the solution for whatever product he's promoting or service he's promoting via his agency or for a client, and then he uses AI to scan what the company does, and then tells AI, okay, make me 3 solutions that we could make for this one company based on what the website says and based on what our solution does. So it just gives constructive solutions, like for example, and then the AI will write down stuff like, we could help you, I don't know, let's say in your case as an agency owner, like if he was to send you an email, he will send you something that goes on the lines of like something like this. um, we could help you, you know, create more databases for companies based in Vancouver, Canada, and that specialize in ABC, because he probably saw on your website that you were based in Vancouver. I mean, the
Right.
AI saw that, and probably saw that some of your like your client testimonials, they are from whatever industry. So the AI will probably suggest more clients that are based on that location that you have, like, most of your clients on. So that kind of stuff will resonate with you. So I think when you use AI to make like one or two lines that make your emails hyper targeted, it it will work. It's not as easy as like a 2-click kind of process, so you definitely need to
Yeah.
like dig deeper and follow people like him to learn about a bit about it. He uses tools like Clay is amazing. There is also a tool called databar.ai that also works very well. So yeah, you can use this stuff to like use a lot of data sources, and then make these emails. But yeah, it's a bit of work. It's not so
For
easy.
sure.
I don't think AI is quite there yet. You definitely need to like put a bit of work into that.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, Martin. So yeah, really appreciate you. Really appreciate your time. um yeah, it was a pleasure having you once again in another of our videos. And yeah, we hope to see you again soon here.
Yeah. The
um
pleasure was mine.
yeah, wishing you a
Yeah.
successful 2024. I think you will crush it. I even thought like you were telling people like how to crush it in 2024. I think yourself you will crush it. Like from the stuff I'm hearing, I think like you're, yeah, on a very good spot to like, yeah, keep growing your agency. So yeah.
Well, Kale, then can I make an ask from
Yeah,
that
of course.
down the same vein?
Mhm.
Well, I guess first, quick shout out to our team. I think like we're doing really, really good work, and it's been awesome to watch. And if anybody likes what they hear and they want to join our team at some point, like
Hmm.
we're always hiring the right people. And if you think you would be a great fit, please just reach out, send us an email, and we can get acquainted.
Love it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, that's a great ask. So martin.ade@lidosaurus.com. So yeah, feel free to send him an
Well, and
email
I
if you
should
haven't.
add, Felipe, actually one of our team members who's been on for just under a year, he actually came because I made the same ask last time,
Oh,
and it's like
really?
phenomenal. Yeah, Patrick, phenomenal team member of ours.
Nice.
Uh, he came after hearing the last Instantly podcast,
Oh,
and
nice.
it worked out. So
Nice.
yeah, I'd love to have that happen again.
Good stuff. Now those kind of stories always makes us happy. So yeah, no, love it. Absolutely love
Yeah,
it.
man. Thanks for all you guys do. I really appreciate it. And thanks a lot for having me out.
No, thank you.
It's a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
And I
Thank you
meant
so
what I
much.
said. You guys are. It's really cool. You guys are actually trying to pioneer, to try like lead the way and actually like produce content that's meaningful and like have some good conversations and not just fight for eyeballs. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Take good care.
Bye bye.
See you, man.